Just not getting it.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times with Good People Company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Good. Now that you've received your invitation, join us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Tell a friend, and welcome to the party. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. We've got our returning champion, Chris O'Connor. He's the owner of Liquid 9 Entertainment and Investments, as well as having interest in Rieger Whiskey and Office Works. We've got Big Dave Elliott. He is the owner of C&P Construction. Ben Roberts. He is the bartender extraordinaire here at the Pendergast Club. And of course, the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name. And today, on episode 54 of the Loft Party Podcast, we have our first interview of the new year, and we are interviewing Blanket Undercover. That is the artistic team of, and if I'm saying your names incorrectly, please correct me, Mantia and Leone Anne Reeves.
Yes.
So we had the pleasure, the anonymous female and I had the pleasure of making these young ladies' acquaintance at a production that another friend of mine puts on. So I will give a quick plug to Shelf Life and David Wayne Reed, who does an amazing show and telling of objects and their stories. And he does this every couple of months, and the show is themed. This last Saturday, the theme was Wanderlust, and everybody's
good subject.
Everybody's object was pretty amazing, but these two ladies, their object and the story behind it was so powerful and fits right into what we usually do here, and that's politics and current events, that I felt like everybody out there in podcast land probably should hear this. So, before we dig in too deep, let's play a quick party game. So, we do this every show. We ask at least one, maybe two party game questions, break some ice, then we get into it. So,
do we really have a week where nobody died?
Yeah, we actually do. Yeah, we usually do.
Charlie Murphy.
No, we talked about Charlie Murphy. Oh, you know what? We actually did. We were going to talk about Charlie Murphy this week.
Yeah,
but we thought we had too much meat.
So,
but Charlie Murphy got upscale.
So you're absolutely right. So rest in peace, Charlie Murphy. We were going to do politics as usual and talk about Charlie Murphy, and then I met these young ladies, and I thought their story needs to be told immediately. And we will double back to Charlie Murphy because I think we all have great Charlie Murphy stories, as we're all big Chappelle Show fans, except for the anonymous female, I think. So,
Dave Chappelle?
Yeah.
I like Dave Chappelle.
Was it Chappelle's show?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
So, first question, would you rather make out with a walrus or never make out ever again?
I think that's just a crazy question.
I do too. I would make out with a walrus for sure. I would totally make out with a walrus.
Yeah.
Sounds fun, actually.
I'm making with my dog every day.
No one's taking making out away from me. So.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I'll do it.
Yeah, like if making out is off of the table altogether.
How passionately do we have to make out with this walrus?
Are you kidding me? Do you even need to ask that
It
question?
could be a stoic make out, right?
Definitely with tongue. There's gotta be.
Yeah, you can.
Otherwise, you're not really making. It's not like kissing your dog on the where you hold his mouth
That's
closed.
not making out.
Right.
Kiss me.
You gotta fully go for it with the walrus.
Making out includes bodily contact. Like you have to make it.
As long as it's not like animal assault or.
Oh well, yeah, no. We're not taking it too far.
Okay. We don't need to look too deep into
Right.
that subject.
All we know at this table
This is a
making
consensual
out
party.
is never taken off the table. So unanimously, making out with a walrus and brushing our teeth.
Okay, all right.
If I'm making out with a walrus, I'm definitely brushing my teeth afterwards. That's all.
Oh my god.
And before we get started, purely because I forgot to delete it off of my list, so there's a bonus mini topic that I personally thought was hilarious. But the question is,
How long was she married?
the question is,
I didn't even know she was married.
yeah,
by the way.
yes. So
That's
here's
how
the
quick it
question:
was.
at what point are you getting a divorce settlement, or you're a gold digger? Here's the question.
Wait. What point you get a divorce settlement, or you're
Or you're a gold digger. Or you're a gold digger.
Well,
And here's why.
Okay,
And
yeah.
here's why. So Janet Jackson's getting divorced, and her prenup gets her $500 million.
Who was the guy?
Some Saudi prince or something.
Really?
Then
Yeah,
Is that she had the baby with recently?
Yeah.
She's already born.
Yeah.
She married a
Wait.
Saudi prince?
Yeah, she did.
She's so good at being so secretive
so the
about her.
prenup says,
I love her.
as long as you stay with me for 5 years, you get $100 million a year if you stay with me for 5 years. She's been with him exactly 5.5 years.
Ooh.
Dude, a chick in Saudi Arabia is worth $500 million when you're married to a prince. You get it, you've earned it, you've done all that crap. It's a
3
backwards
months after
ass
giving
country.
birth, she said goodbye.
Dude,
Good.
Wow.
Good.
So is he
I think
So
right.
she nailed it.
Is he very beautiful? Is that why she chose
he's
him?
fairly handsome, but I'm
That
also
makes sense to
thinking
me.
this is moving her into Middle Eastern culture. And this is a black girl from Gary at the end of the day. She's not gonna, and she's a Jehovah's Witness. She's not cool with whatever the hell she's got to do.
No, she's a business person.
Yeah, and, which is what I'm thinking.
Oh, he's kind of
gorgeous.
cute.
That's what I'm saying, he's a good looking guy.
Well then, so what's the question?
So, at
And
what
also,
point
wait, do we
are
share-
you getting a divorce settlement?
Wait, I have something.
Or
Like, what are we labeling her
was this a
as?
planned gold dig
This
move?
was definitely a planned move,
This
but I don't know if
is-
necessarily a gold digging move. And it's possible that maybe he has an alternative lifestyle that we don't know about. That he needed her to be his.
He could be a
beard.
beard.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is true. Didn't think about
Hollywood
that.
marriage.
I think
Of
this
course,
is a
and
dude
also a
walking around.
family-related marriage. Like maybe he wasn't going to
Yep.
get his inheritance if
If he didn't
produce a
okay,
person.
in heir, yeah.
And who wouldn't want to produce a child?
Did they
With Janet Jackson.
did they have a
The
child?
same person.
Yes.
Is it a male
They just had
child?
one.
I believe.
Yeah,
boy?
and I think it's a boy.
Oh, wow.
And
I believe
think
so.
it's a
So
boy.
that's she probably really filled that order like exactly. I'd say she earned her money. That's all
I
I'm
do
saying.
too.
What if it's just a dude with billions of dollars who this means nothing?
Yeah. No, yeah, he has
Also, you know
billions
there was
of dollars.
paperwork. Like everyone knew what was going on.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
has
she
billions.
made-
of
they
dollars.
made a
He did
deal.
for 5 years.
Yeah,
Just
and
walk
this was,
around going,
and
Janet
this
Jackson.
was
Are you
in the
kidding me?
prenup. So it's
That's
not like
awesome.
she's divorcing him and saying, "Hey, I want $500 million."
She even did
This
extra
was-
half a year.
This
I'd
was
say
in the prenup.
This was like. This is
So
like
she,
a.
so she got a bonus 6 months. Is that what you
If I
said?
had-
she's also old, right? Like she's
I agree.
50.
Yeah, she's like 50. She's
Yeah.
50.
If I had $5,001, I would still give her the $500 million just for the 5 years I got to walk around and go,
I'm married to Janet
Yes,
Jackson.
yes.
Because A, she looks good. B, she's had a beautiful baby boy at over age 50.
Okay, wait. I think there may be a dissenting opinion
Okay.
at the table.
There ain't no way Big Dave would do something like that. No. I don't care.
Okay. Okay. Wait. I got one for you. I got one for you.
Raquel Welch would be different.
Yes. Raquel
I
Welch.
was gonna say.
But then that's the same.
But then also, if you can think about it like this, you
The
have
question
like.
isn't whether you would do it.
Okay.
It's whether she's a gold digger.
She filed for divorce.
That's the part of the conversation that we wouldn't have had. Though, is it's much more controversial for a 50-year-old woman to have a baby than a 50-year-old man, due to obviously medical.
Yeah, because it's
reasons.
very. I mean, she definitely put herself in some jeopardy to do that.
Yeah.
God, I want to really know.
Slash, it's cute.
what
I just
their
thought it's
relationship
adorable.
Yeah.
is. It is a cute baby.
All right. So, are we ready to move
Yeah.
move forward off of the party conversation?
Apparently that was
For
more,
sure. It's a
Got one more
bigger.
reaction out of that, Jim.
you know you're going to get $100 million every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
And,
sweet.
and you couldn't hang out for more time.
Give me $500 million once versus $100 million every year. Because I
I'd
would
like
make more
to
money on the
see
interest.
some charity
I would
donation
need
after
more.
this too.
I think it's going to be called the Jackson Foundation.
I agree with that.
Well, if they're doing amazing things contributions, I'm fine with that. But if it's just some like,
She get 50% of it away.
Yeah.
Something good.
yeah.
Then she don't mind that.
What if it's just for the baby's education?
Oh, please. No, it doesn't need
She doesn't care.
That better be real smart.
Which education costs $500,000.
I can't believe it.
Okay, all right. I'm reining it in.
Okay.
Yep.
Kid
Wait, I just want to say
This
one last
actually
thing.
went way deeper than I thought it was going. You get the last word.
The oldest profession in the world is prostitution. That's my last.
And that's it. That's it on that. I also
good job,
agree. It's the oldest profession in the world. Okay, so blanket undercover.
Yes.
So first of all, independently, looking at your site, you guys were doing things independent of each other, but when did you guys meet and decide to form Blanket Undercover?
We both were students at the Kansas City Art Institute in the early 2000s, and I graduated in 2003, and Megan started in 2002, correct?
Yes.
So we were just overlapped by a tiny amount, and the only reason why we met is because as a senior, I started a cheerleading squad with my friends that was called Raw Booty. I don't know if any of you
Oh
were
my
around
God,
long enough.
yes, I know.
Yeah.
Robert
Spelled R-A-H.
Raw Booty was this radical cheerleading squad, and we would cheer for whatever we wanted to, not related to a sports team.
It was like a feminist
It was a
platform.
feminist
sound like
platform.
it.
Yeah.
With our own
and
colors.
comedic, very comedic.
Yeah.
And
And political.
And political. So after our first year of doing that, we decided, well, any good cheerleading squad has tryouts for the new generation. So we had a tryout, and that's when I met Megan.
Ah.
Yes. And Leone had moved to different various cities like after a little while, and we always stayed in touch and saw each other, and she went to grad school and did a bunch of stuff, and then eventually she came back to Kansas City, and I had a solo show that I was doing, but I wanted a visual element to it, so I asked her to help me create some imagery for it. It yielded kind of a project and some conversations that led to pretty much everything else we've been doing for like the last 6-7 years. And so we've known each other and been like knowing we were, like soulmates of the mind for a very, very long time. But there was just kind of like these many years where we were in different cities. And so it's all come back around. And now we just moved to LA as well.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations.
So where are you from originally? What do you call your hometowns?
Ooh, we are people who were part of families that moved a lot. So I was born in North Carolina in a little small town called Waynesville in the Haywood County area. And then I moved to Minneapolis, where I lived with my grandparents. And then I
You see
moved...
culture there too.
What's the culture like there?
You receive culture there because Minneapolis is very often not
Yeah, it's wild there.
in many ways.
Yeah, I was there right when all of the Hmong population had their first generation, and so it was like pretty, it was an intense time for that city. And then the Somalian population from
Oh, they do have a huge
they showed
Somali
up right at that
population.
time too. So it was like an explosion of like not just Swedes and Norwegians, which is thrilling.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I moved here right out of high school and lived here for a while, and then
Down to the audience.
yeah, and then I moved to Miami Beach for a while, and then I moved to Chicago for a while.
Oh, where did you live in Chicago? I'm from Chicago.
Oh, I lived on the corner of Fullerton and Western behind the Domino's.
Okay. All right. I know exactly where that is, actually. I know exactly where that is, actually. All
Yeah.
right.
And then I was born in Texas, in Wichita Falls, but we didn't live there very long, and I had most of my childhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma for like 9 years. And then we moved to St. Louis for 10 months, Wisconsin for 6 years, Iowa for 3 years, and then Overland Park, Kansas for 1 year of my senior year of high school. Then I did all my college interviews in person, came to the Art Institute, and I lived here for like the last 15, 16 years, and just have now moved for the first time without my family, which has been very exciting. So, but I really love Kansas City, and so
Yeah,
like,
I love Kansas City. I always want to come back here. It's my favorite city I've ever lived in.
yeah.
All right.
So is this your, do you guys do this for a day job as well? Like you make all your money off of Blankets Undercover, or do you do side jobs as well?
We do
You
not
from
make
Art Institute.
our money off of Blanket Undercover. It is like the thing we can't not do.
Sure.
But we make money all kinds of other ways. Like for me personally, I was a teacher for 10 years, and then I, on the side, was a server, and then I was like a server full time. I worked at Sava, best champagne bar in the whole world.
Yeah.
Love the Sava. And then now we are hoping to work more in the production world of Los Angeles. So just now I finished working on a movie with Megan that was a series of scary movies, and I was the props master, and Megan was the art director, and then she can tell you what she's been doing for money.
I've also been a producer for the last, almost 10 years, 8 to 10 years, in different, sometimes producing art projects and exhibitions, but a lot of commercial and music video endeavors, and then also a few films. Yeah. So, and I worked at RW2 full-time in 2015 as their main producer, and then I worked at Hallmark for the last year. So we probably have
That's what I knew.
So we've seen each other somewhere probably.
Because I know them Liquid Nights. So
yes, right. I was gonna say. I was like, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
we've
yes.
been at some of our happy hours and stuff together.
I knew it.
Well, I planned their entire
Small
rebrand
worlds.
party and everything that one year. It was so crazy.
Got it.
Yeah, so I'm also we both do event planning and whatnot, and I worked at the Kemper Museum for a long time. I'm also a caterer and do lots of other little side jobs.
Yeah.
But
So tell us about the Year of Dreams project.
Okay, so we, in that moment when I first moved back here, and Megan was like, I want to do the show, we were both, I can say the word disgruntled with the art scene, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we were failing as artists, and it doesn't mean that we were not sure what to do. It was more like we were unhappy with what we were doing, and we wanted to try something different, so we decided...
Transition.
Yeah, we were in this transitional feeling moment, and we decided that what we really wanted to do was to see a bunch of stuff. Like, we really wanted to go places and see things. And, it was like this tiny moment that led to this larger project where we decided we wanted to make a list of all these crazy events that either we had sort of made fun of at some point because we were like, whatever, people do that for a dumb reason and had never been, or things that we were really fascinated by that we wanted to see, and why not do it now instead of when you're retired. So that's where it started.
we wanted to make fun of the idea of the bucket list, which is something that is
that's right.
super.
That too, yeah.
Well, it's just very popular. It has been for a long time. It's a term that always makes my skin crawl a little bit because the idea of waiting till you're done with everything, or you finally have enough money, or you're whatever.
Yeah.
You're almost dead, and you're really set in your ways, and you're you might have a heart attack when you retire. You might not. A lot of people they get done killing themselves in the American way until a certain point, or realize they can't even really afford much past that anyway, depending on what you do, and then they realize there is no amazing pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or whatever, and why wait?
Why did you wait?
Yeah, and so you just you're not as limber and young and open-minded and whatever, and you're tied down by a lot of other things, and you're more worried about danger and more worried about all these things, and it just seems like not the greatest time to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we also wanted to make fun of that and be like, you know what? This year is the year we'll do everything. And
Yeah.
it's every year for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And so we called it the Year of Dreams, singular, but the joke is that it's every year.
Yeah.
And so we decided that every year we would do at least 2 or 3 events. And we started to categorize it in an elevator pitchy sort of way as being a pilgrimage to mass gatherings of specific themes across the country and world. And so that's the easiest way to describe it. We wanted to speak to things not being just based on the internet. We wanted to really have, never judge something without being there. And one of the best examples is the Gathering of the Juggalos, where a lot of it's very famous. People know about it, and a lot of people judge a certain group of people, or think because they saw a 20-minute documentary on YouTube that they know everything about a group of people. We just wanted to make sure that our work was more than just physical objects, more than just waste or things in a city where, to be quite honest, there's not a lot of great patronage. That perhaps our work, specifically, perhaps our work is more experiential, more educational, is what we were hoping. Also to educate ourselves.
We want to be like anthropologists. I think I've mentioned that here. So just to really understand and study this contemporary era.
Are you media agnostic? Is it just a whole variety of things?
It is a variety of things. Sometimes it is a document in the form of a photograph, or it'll be a video, or it'll be the costume that we made,
Or a
to be
travelogue,
there.
where we literally
Or-
write out the story of what we experienced, which we
Yeah.
have been not commissioned, but we've worked with other journals and organizations to contribute.
Or we get interviewed. This is kind of an interesting. Will become a document of this moment,
Right,
or-
right,
and
right.
our new stage of thinking about what
project.
this project
What
should be.
it should turn into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get
But wait, before we get into another question, I just want to acknowledge that we just got joined by our own personal Brian Massey. We want to welcome him to the panel this week. He's joining in, and today we are talking with Blanket Undercover, and they are telling us about the Year of Dreams. So,
The performance artist basically
It is
one
basically
one small
performance art.
category to put
You could
have
do
other
that.
categories.
You
you're
could
in.
call it that
I think
because
so,
in a lot of
yeah.
ways we create custom costumes for each to kind of walk amongst certain groups that, not all of them are full of extremism, but some of them are very like specific enthusiasm of a certain type that all gather because it's their most home feeling because they're all the same. And we are not necessarily subscribing to any of these groups, but we would like to, we never really lie when we get there, but when we walk amongst them, so to speak, people will come up and be like, so what are you here for? Like, is it your first time? And we'll say, yes, we've never been, but we've always heard about it, and we're dying to know more, and we're just here to really, like, find out more, which is an honest statement, and that's usually what happens.
Yeah,
and
we
then,
never lie, and we're like, is that
like, we're experts on all of this.
That'll
'Cause, like,
catch up to you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and especially
But you also
groups.
get much better conversations with people when you're like, tell
Okay.
me about who you are. People are like, let me tell you. It's
Well,
so
what
much
do you
more
look
fun.
for in a event? So how do you decide, okay, these are the places we're going to go? What's
Usually
the
it would start out with things that we thought seemed fun, and then it turned into things that seemed like something that we would normally have made fun of, and then it became more like, well, what's something that like actually makes me nervous that I would
Seeking
really like to know.
have a better understanding, but unbiasedly towards
But
the alien.
I would also
And
say
not taking a group and making it a monolith, trying to understand why anybody individually would
I
come
love
into those
that.
kind of things.
Yeah,
Does that
definitely
make sense?
exactly how it is.
Yeah.
It's definitely a study of microculture, but also like I remember when we first were describing it, like we always described it as, perhaps we'd be the only people on Earth by the time we're 80 that have been to every famous event on Earth, but not just anywhere that they might happen, but the place where the thing happens, the time that it happens. Like not Mardi Gras in Kansas City, but like Mardi Gras, all of the carnivals in all of the areas of the world. Rio,
They're not the same
New Orleans,
everywhere.
right?
Different.
Exactly. Venice.
Yeah.
Like we were like, well, we're going to do all of them eventually.
St. Louis, the Soul Guard has a wonderful Mardi Gras.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody has a story
Everybody
about
has
something
a
that
thing we
happens
should go
from
see.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And so we would always end we would do lots of talks when we got back so that people could like kind of go on this trip with us when we're done with it.
And ask questions and be
And,
like curious about like things that we could change their opinion about or change their stereotype of something.
And the
or
conversation,
experience.
it always turns into being like, okay, but there's this thing you have to go to. And we're like, we take requests. This is what we'd always joke about. So when we went to the Ernest Hemingway Lookalike Contest, which is known as the Papa Lookalike Contest in Key West, and dressed as the Lady Papas all week, which we were not allowed to compete because we were women.
But they really wanted
They
us
really,
to.
they really embraced us. And
But
it was
they
really
found
amazing.
in the rules
Is
that
this
there
the
was
one
no.
they did at the house with all the cats?
They
Yeah,
don't
well-
actually do it at the house anymore, but I think it started there.
We visited
That's like
it
the
at the house.
museum.
We did see the cats. We went to the house, but it's at his favorite bar where he basically drank himself to death, called Sloppy Joe's.
Yep.
But anyway, that was a suggestion from someone, and we were like, "That's so bizarre." But supposedly, it's one of the largest lookalike contests in the maybe country or world. It's only like 130 dudes, but apparently, like not an impersonation contest, but a lookalike.
A real lookalike.
Because there's Elvis and other stuff, but
And none of them actually look like her. They tried.
They all look like Santa
have
Claus.
great hair.
It's an amazing bar.
yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is there any event or group of people that you tried to attend that you were maybe initially critical of or opposed to, that you had your perspective changed, yet also changed their perspective as well through dialogue?
Don't answer that
Okay.
because
Ben got very deep there.
the reason
it's good.
the reason that I approached you to come be on this show,
Okay.
I think answers his question.
Okay.
So we will answer that, but not
Not now.
yet
Okay.
because
There's some build-up.
the answer
Yeah.
the answer can get emotional. And
Sure.
are you ready for all that emotion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got one more quick question. I just want to go back in your history a little bit more. Did you both attend the Art Institute? Did you study sculpture? I mean, do you have other forms of art that you like to do that think you have a talent in? That's one I'm curious as, how have you evolved out of these different things? Because art isn't always evolving. That's what's so cool about art. It's shifting, changing modes
It's true.
of things.
I will tell you that my specific undergrad degree is a Bachelor of Fine Arts in pottery with a minor in creative writing. And then
Okay.
my graduate degree is a MFA in a Master's of Fine Arts in performance art with a minor in art history.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're very well rounded through the subjects. How about you, Megan?
I did not go to grad school, but my undergrad was major in printmaking, and I double majored in art history as well. And But our artwork together takes a lot of forms like video or photography or performance, and also writing and travel, which we like to refer to as a medium for the most part.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
I started my bucket list at 17, so yeah, I'm all about it.
There's like some weird things that we've done as jobs though that I would say were more effective on us than schooling. Like for example, I was a teacher and I taught sewing and sculpture for like 10 years, and those are things I'm really good at. And then
How do you feel that serving has changed your perspective as well?
oh my God, serving is, I was going to say.
Yeah.
So we have both been in like a serving/catering position, and the
Tough
way
job.
that you learn how to navigate conversation with
Yeah.
people and like maintain neutrality is such an incredible
And
skill.
patience in
And
general.
patience,
Yeah.
yeah.
And contextual experience is such an interesting way to approach talking to anybody, like
Yeah.
trying to learn how they operate and
How best to get at them.
to identify.
And it's
to-
almost like a weird, like learning sales, like
Yeah.
it's almost like that too, like learning how to present yourself to somebody, or like eye contact, body language, like so many things.
Yeah,
I mean,
everything
whether
about
they
sales.
what
they
makes you
prefer
this.
something that intense or
But
whether
it
they
also
prefer
is
something-
what
That's what makes you
will-
get jacked at the end of the deal.
But it also will like neutralize a conflict.
Yeah.
If you can
Well,
do it right.
absolutely.
Yeah, which is maybe a more
And brings connections.
terrifying
I have
skill.
45 employees, I'm pretty good at that.
Well, a lot of our work
Yeah.
involves, we do a lot of like citywide interactive projects as well. We've done a lot of like coordination of like large groups of people to be part
yes.
of like huger pieces that we've done that are not related to Year of Dreams. Like we've done many projects that are super public that involve it.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell us about some of those.
So there's one that's the most well known, was at the end of 2015. It was on the cover of the pitch.
This
in
is the best
October
thing
that
we've
year.
ever done, ever.
Yeah,
It
what
was-
is your best?
Well, okay, so it was called the Mini Vinny Binny. It stands for the Miniature Venice Biennale. The Venice Biennale is a very famous exhibition in Venice, Italy that happens every other year. It's a 6-month long exhibition that is
It's like the Olympics of art.
yeah, but it's the contemporary art of all of the countries in
the
the world.
world, yeah.
and,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's, each curator kind of chooses who's involved, so it's not always absolutely every single country.
But the one that we went
But-
to ended up being the most inclusion of world
Artists.
artists
Of some
ever-
countries that had
ever
never
done.
been included
Yeah, like people that you
before.
would think of as like maybe not informed in contemporary art, but have clearly been making art forever, and they had some incredible pieces to show, and also showed art throughout history, where they were like, we haven't been just learning about art history.
Yeah,
for the
we've been
last
doing this all the
10
time.
years.
Yeah.
It was really amazing.
It was a world stage. It's a world stage all the time,
Yeah.
but some years are more whimsically themed than others. And ours was about like all of the change that's afoot and all of the basically the problems of the world. It's called All the World's Futures. So what we wanted to do was we got a rocket grant for $6,000 thanks to Charlotte Street and the Andy Warhol Foundation, and we used that money to. Well, we didn't use it for the trip at all. We self-funded ourselves to go
we always self-fund everything.
to running the Bulls in Pamplona as part of Year of Dreams, and then after that we went to the Venice Biennale for a whole week and documented everything. And then
We
brought-
literally ran from gallery to gallery to get to see everything.
Everything.
And we missed some things.
It's almost impossible to
Yeah.
see everything in even a week. It's like one of the most massive exhibitions you've ever been to. It's
Okay.
truly incredible. It'll change your life, even if you're not an art crazy person. You've got to
Yeah,
go.
we highly recommend
So
it
it's
for
really,
every
really,
single person
and you get to
ever.
see crazy buildings you would never see in Venice otherwise. But that's not the point. So we brought everything back here, and then we created it in miniature, and we had 30 pavilions throughout the city, which is a lot like how Venice does it, except it's like it's like 90.
What year was this?
2015.
2015, yeah.
15.
There is only one that's still up that you can see, and it's on
Linwood?
Troost and Linwood, and it's the building that's called what is it
Best
called?
Deal.
Best Deal, yeah. And there are these giant billboards that hang from their carport area, and forever they've said things like furniture sale, and they're all faded and gross. And so we printed giant vinyl images of the Korean Pavilion, which was like this futuristic movie with a woman who was like in this shiny apartment. And the way that it looks, it's very like advertisement for super clean new age apartments, like Yuppieville Central.
Yeah.
And the woman who is organizing the sale of that building literally said to me, "We'd love for more artists to put work here because we want to help gentrify the neighborhood faster."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
dying
really
to hear
amazing.
about the most awesome story too, but before we do, I'm just curious on your perspective as Kansas City as an artistic community, because it seems like you guys travel the world and do all these things. Was it because you felt like there was a lack of opportunity here, or was it because you just wanted to bring more opportunity to the city, or?
Ooh, that's like there are a lot of elements to that. One,
Yeah.
we like to travel first. But
Sure. I do
two,
too.
yes, there is a lack of patronage here for sure. But because it is so cheap, and we in this city, for whatever reason, not like any other city, have an incredible collaborative spirit. Like, this is the place to be if you want to do stuff with other people and have an incredible time creating things and feeling like you're part of a community, which is what we have felt like. But at the same time, yeah, you have to also expand that community. And so another reason why we have moved away is to sort of meet new people to introduce
to bring them
Kansas
in,
City.
and
Every time we've done it before, we've always expanded not only our community here as artists, but communities elsewhere. It's
and make
happening.
fans of Kansas City out elsewhere.
And so as you've been traveling, have you honestly felt like there's a lack of artistic art opportunity here versus? I mean, listen, if you're going to compare Kansas City and Venice, well, clearly Venice is probably going to win in terms of artistic.
I mean, it depends on what you're looking for.
What do you mean by
because-
opportunity? Do you mean money, or do you mean just
Bingo.
showing
that
in
was
space?
the
Because
point
that's
I
the
was about
difference.
to
I
make.
think it is a very hyper-artistic city because of places like the Art Institute, which I think is a reasonably, certainly nationally renowned, if not internationally renowned. So I say go to school,
Well,
which is awesome, and have turned out some incredible artists.
Yes.
But let's talk about what they buy with their money.
Yeah,
because
that's a better
they
question.
buy old art.
What do they buy?
They buy
with their money?
art that already has a market. They
Right.
aren't going to buy
Right.
art that is not going to appreciate in value over time.
But they will also appreciate you. They may
well,
buy that, but they do
it's
support.
just-
They do
it's
support
very
the Art
different.
Institute, and they do support different things.
sure, in an existence
But
as
But
an
this is how
organization.
they.
yeah.
But this is how they know how to do something.
Of course.
Sure, but here's the thing: when you don't have, say, a dealer that's making you look as fancy as some of these artists do to these people, who, especially that are not from the state. I mean, most of these people, some of them are collecting. Somebody like Pamela Johnson, she has an incredible local art collection. And I'm not saying that everybody has to buy only local art at all, because that's obviously not the way you're going to build your collection and have a diverse collection. I would never say that, but there's a lot of really killer art happening in the city, and a lot of there's actually a great appreciation for weird art here, a burgeoning, incredible local weird projects that I really would like to. There's moments where I've doubted some of the efforts of Charlotte Street, but they have really, for so much of their existence in the early days, and also have really brought it back around now with new leadership under Amy Kligman, have really been bringing it back to supporting emerging artists in the city and giving them a platform to create without having it all figured out quite yet, which I think is the most valuable thing that you can do, not just establish stuff, but to support people while they're still figuring out what they're doing and give them studio space, give them areas to work, give them resources, which is such a marginal amount of money to some of these people. It could be something that would be much more widespread, more grants, more whatever. And this organization does a lot of that, and they field and steward most of those things, including the art boards and the crossroads. Almost all of it ties back to Charlotte Street in some way, and all the work they're doing to bring in grants to the city that are then distributed through other names, but sometimes, even Plug Projects was a Rocket grant, and that is related to Charlotte Street. Our Rocket grant was related to Charlotte Street. Right now we're hired to curate a series of things for the 20-year anniversary, and we're getting paid to do that. That's part of why we're in town right now. So thanks to them for that. But there's other organizations like Arts KC, who Leon has a lot of experience with.
I'm familiar with Arts KC.
So a lot of people, there's only so many of those though, and it would be great for there to be more, and more of the money to be funneled into things that aren't already established, like the Arts Institute. There's things that
The Art Institute is a really safe place to funnel your money because it's going to exist because it's already existed for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you feel that Blanket Undercover is somewhat age-related? That you have more of a demographic that you appeal to, or do you feel like it appeals to all kinds of different demographics?
Gosh, I do not know the answer to that question, and I
It's
also
kind of
don't.
interesting how you look at it.
I feel
though.
like it has our focus has changed as we have moved along, as in our age, in the space of our time growing up.
Right.
I had the Miley Cyrus moment as a young person when I was like, oh my God, my body is a sexual body. And then I had the moment where I was like, oh my God, I don't own the sexualization of my body. And then I had the moment where I was like, I want to be political with the sexualization of my body. And this is over a 30-year period, really. I mean, so it will change,
That's
I think, as I go.
that's the journey of life.
Okay, sorry.
I think no. Actually, this is all actually pushing us toward, because we've used this one word
It's a long conversation.
several times, and that word has been political. Which
We always evolve to.
which brings me back to the Year of Dreams, which brings me back to the last Year of Dreams project,
Yes.
which was the Trump rally.
in Kansas City.
in Kansas City.
Last March.
So, without interruption, I want you guys to tell us about your what you did to prepare for it, the experience that you had,
Okay.
and because, like I say, I really think what you shared at Shelf Life was pretty profound, and not only as artists, but as humans and as women particularly. I think you guys seem to have really profound experience with what you felt coming out of that. So, so I really wanted to share.
Give a timeline on this.
So this
rally
was
was last March.
Was this when we the Midland Theater and all that? Okay.
This
okay.
was like the last time he's been here. I think.
That was the timeline I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank
right,
you.
right.
So that was like the last time that we did a project that we will categorize under Year of Dreams, and it was March of 2016. And we did the thing that we always do, which is we find out what the event is. We look into what do the people who are attending this event usually look and think like, and that wasn't too hard because obviously like there were a million Trump rallies happening every second, and it was all over the news, and it was all over our Facebook feeds, and it was all over the TV. So we showed up in sweatpants and t-shirts and ball caps, and we made our shirts based on something we saw on the internet, which was 3 words. It said Democrat with a checkbox, Republican with a checkbox, and then it said pissed with a checkbox. And so we made
What was the last word?
pissed.
Okay.
So it was like you're part of the pissed party, not either of the normal
Yeah.
parties.
So we showed up in shirts that just said Trump pissed.
Yeah, like 2 checkboxes, like you're a Trump
Because
supporter or you're pissed.
we are not Trump supporters, and we couldn't allow ourselves to fully go there.
embody that.
And
That's America.
That's America, yes. And so we showed up. And
wait, full disclosure, and this would be
And
this
you're-
would be
you're
this
a
would be the
Trump
last
supporter.
this would be the last interruption. Big Dave.
Okay, that's
Is a
fine.
Trump supporter.
We're really glad that you're at the table.
Yeah.
actually.
Which is that's where I am. But you look at my age.
No, but this is what we're looking for, which is like a round table that actually has all
Yes.
the voices present.
Yes.
This is something we've
Yeah.
been absolutely seeking out in every way. This is actually like a dream come true.
And
Yeah.
and
This
this
is what we've always been good at.
is why
Yeah.
the Law
Cool.
Party
I'm
Podcast.
so glad that you
Yeah.
guys are also
Yeah.
Doing this every
and
week is
you're
incredible.
Involving yourself, because you could also be like, fuck all of you. No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry
No,
for swearing.
No, you
No,
got Oh, trust
no.
me.
We
swear. We swear.
If I had that
We
attitude.
swear at each other.
No, yeah, nothing happens when you shut off all the communication.
So that is another reason why this is so great. So like, yeah, nothing ever, you don't learn anything if you don't put yourself in positions where you feel like you're not part of that crowd.
Right.
So we showed up and we did not act as protesters. We just were participants the entire night. We like stayed in the line and we listened to people just talking the whole time. We overheard things that were hilarious and very uncomfortable. We saw a lot of conflict between protesters and Trump supporters that made us extremely sad, and was what for me a very eye-opening moment on what is whiteness, and like where is whiteness on this spectrum beyond just the color of our skin. And what I think whiteness is, and I said it in our talk, is a promise of some certain things that you would think are silly, that this would even be something that people would be having to talk about. But the promise of job security, the promise of being free to say and do what you want, to choose jobs that you want, to be free to have healthcare you can depend on. And obviously this, all of us, like not just the Trump supporters, are angry because maybe not all of them are getting that, or they feel like it is being jeopardized by a minority group that perhaps is putting it in threat. So that was what I realized. And I also realized in that moment that a lot of the things that I participate in all the time, that I think like, I'm just evolving on my own and I'm learning about new things on my own path, are only available to me because I am a white woman and because of the upbringing that I've had in all of these white communities. And it's something that I've been like getting towards slowly in my life for a very long time, but this was like a really
eye-opening
major moment. And it didn't even really hit me then. It's like we've had conversations about this over the course of the year, and I've had conversations with other people too. And I know you've had conversations with people, not only like with our parents, but like with friends, and I've also been seeking out Republican allies who would maybe give me perspective on
Where
a
did
larger
this come
idea
from?
of where, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's not like a moment where we can be like, Republicans are the reason why this happened, or poor white people are the reason why this happened, or like.
But that we are all part of why this
Yes,
is
like
happening.
I'm finding my own part in why we are at the moment we are now in history with the leadership that we have and the conflict that we have amongst our people.
And so we went to this event
On
just thinking,
Saturday, yeah.
thinking that it
Oh,
would,
no, I'm sorry.
No,
The Trump
When
rally.
we went to the rally, we didn't think it was going to be just like any other thing. We knew it would be a big deal, but
We also still thought it was a joke at this point.
well, yeah, there was no way we could have known at that point. We really honestly believed that it was possibly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Right.
To be honest, we hoped that it would be. So we bought some of the merch, we like fully, do the whole thing, and just were like, this is so crazy, like how can we not be at this, And it was also a helpful suggestion by Leone's boss, who gave her the night off from work so that we could go.
Caitlin Corcoran made us sign up for this
Yeah.
and even bought our tickets.
She
So
deserves
we have
all
to
the
go.
credit for helping make
Yeah.
this possible. So not only do we take suggestions, but we've had lots of help from people along the way to make these possible. So thank you, Caitlin. But anyway, we went there and it sort of like rocked us a little bit. And there were times where like I actually felt myself like snap out of being there. Like I felt it was very surreal. But we haven't found an easy way to move on since then in this project and know where to go with it because we feel very differently. And of course, everything that has transpired in the last year and everything that we are witnessing in our country and just everyone being so at odds with each other. And I would say for the last at least 3 years / forever, all of the horrific things we are seeing with people being executed in the streets, families never knowing if like their other family member is going to be killed by the end of the day, depending on where you live, or like what kind of unrest might be happening. Say if you live in Ferguson, Missouri, somewhere not that far away, like there's a lot that has been going on in recent years that we should be a lot more up in arms, doing major action for or caring for each other in a different way than we are, that should just be about humanity and not about even politics. And so we've had a hard time just being like, let's just go to another event that's different
And
than
celebrate.
this. And,
Yeah.
or even if it wasn't fun, like even if it was like another Juggalo gathering, an IHOP conference, something that we felt at odds with, it's been hard to just carry on the way that we were, to be quite honest. So we have been trying to take a big look at ourselves and really feel
Yeah, we're having a reflective moment.
where we admit our role and what we find is wrong, which is, and we've always talked about privilege in this project, and the privilege that has allowed us to even travel in the first place, that has set us up to be well off enough in some ways or have enough security in our lives to even have the leisure to make artwork, to be honest, and just to care
Yeah,
about
even
something
being
that
an
we do.
artist is definitely like a white power feeling.
So white power is something that maybe we don't always think about in a certain way, or we certainly don't want to admit our role in. But it is something that we feel is very much our experience, and it could be used, our power could be used for a lot of different things than we use it for right now. And I think that the first step is obviously admitting that we have a role in it, and then like taking charge of how we use that power, and being really cognizant about how we care for our fellow man, no matter who the fellow man is. Like, do you care about humans or not? You know what I mean? Like, is it me for myself or is it not? And I think that like there's a lot of other things that we may agree on or disagree on, but we've chosen to live in what we call the melting pot of America, and sometimes we're really proud of that, but at the same time, it's like we're very like me, my family, my homestead. How can we do both? You know what I mean? Like, this is not just like Sweden, where there's all one kind of people and it's small. This is a huge country. People don't even understand how big it is. Like, from other countries, they don't even realize.
They can't even understand
what we're dealing with on a scale of population and all of the problems therein, because we're not just one place with one kind of people. So like, we all know that. We chose to live here. This is our home. We love it here. We all love America, whatever. But there are like a lot of new creative ways that we're going to need to deal with this to be able to exist next to each other and not just be killing each other, And I mean, we don't have all the solutions, but the point is that we would like to admit that we are part of the problem and only move forward and use every opportunity that we have to be speaking about this in a personal way so we can connect with others around us.
Hey, what's going on, podcasters? Let's acknowledge the good friends of the Loft Party Podcast. The Majestic Restaurant and Pendergast Club, carrying on Kansas City's tradition of great food and great jazz, 931 Broadway in Kansas City, Missouri. The J. Rieger Kansas City Distillery, whiskey, gin, vodka. That is, oh so good. And friend of the podcast and panelist, Lane Boland. managing to keep the podcast going. Apparently wealthy or not. Now onto our regularly scheduled program.
We have had a lot of conversation about how we reclaim words over time, like words that meant hate. And I hate thinking about this actually, but like I really do like this conversation that we've started with each other where we could think that white power could be like using your white power to step out against hate towards, from a whiteness perspective towards an otherness perspective.
And so my friend, and this will be the end of me just yammering, we can get into like maybe questions you guys have or whatever Rio thinks, but a friend of mine who's black, and I said this at the night when we were talking, she said to me that, we were talking about this whole like where we're at and how to even talk about this, and I was admitting that I just sometimes felt very uncomfortable about like knowing what to do, what my role is, like how to feel like just kind of like embarrassed and the guilt that you feel about not really knowing what to do when you actually already care about all of these humanitarian issues that are, even if you don't know where your political stuff lies, like if you care about your fellow man, there's a lot of guilt and weirdness about just going on with your life and having fun. When you're white, yeah. And when you are a white woman, mm-hmm. When you have privilege from the jobs that you're able to get, from the parents that you've had, whatever, you're moving through your life choosing when and when you don't, when it feels the best to participate in activism and something that is difficult, like issues of race and protection for our fellow man. And, she's like, all you got to think about is that your voice will reach more people than mine. Like, other people will hear you, and they're going to hear you in different ways, and they're going to hear my voice. And I never really thought about it in as simple of terms as that before, and it really affected me. And it was only a few months ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since, because I get really complicated in my mind about how I feel weird about not knowing what to do. And when I think about it as simply as that my voice will do something different than another voice, it seems so much more simple than that. And I would really like to be less intimidated by just having a conversation or just trying to reach somebody next to me, even if we have different
I also want to
feelings.
add to that somebody said this to me, and I can't remember what conversation it was or where, but it was something about how perhaps there were times when it was time for me to step out and say something, and then there was other times when I should just be presented in a room of people and say, like, I am just ready to be here to do whatever you need me to do. I am supportive, and maybe now is not the time for me to say something, but whenever you need me, you can ask, and I'm ready. I'm ready to say the right thing or the wrong thing, and you can help me say the right thing in whatever situation that is.
Yeah, I found it, there was one other presenter at Shelf Life, the actually one black presenter that night, and I was joking about it, but later it really hit me that there was a term she used in her talk that I realized that probably 99% of the people in this room had never heard before, and would probably go, "What?" And actually had a conversation with David Reed, and he was saying that he's never had to do that exact thing, but he has had to do something really similar. And the term she used was she was selling her house, and she knows she has a great house, and she couldn't understand why she wasn't getting any offers.
It was also in like a really good neighborhood.
Yeah. Really, really good neighborhood, really good house, and why wasn't she getting any offers? And a friend of hers said to her basically, "Girl, first of all, you have to go around here and de-nigrify this house." And I immediately knew what that was, because being a black person, if you're selling a house, if you're selling yourself at a job interview, you kind of have to go in and de-nigrify yourself in order to get the population that is not like you to go, "Oh, okay," and accept what it is that you're offering, which sounds crazy because I see the faces at the table.
So her story was she basically had to take anything in her house that looked African American and remove it.
In order to get people to even put offers on the house. Because whether people, whether it was pure
It
pure
also-
And
racism.
within a week,
Where?
she
Oh.
had an offer.
Oh,
And it's
right,
all
Rock
white
Hill.
men.
What?
Yeah, like I'm saying, not a bad neighborhood, not a bad house. It was on Rock Hill. So
She also
it-
made the joke that she was an advantage because she was like one of the only black people in the neighborhood too.
So she was halfway there.
Yeah, she said,
yeah, exactly. So it's not like you're selling a house, like trying to move out of a black neighborhood. Like you're in a neighborhood that's already not a black neighborhood, and you had to remove everything that gives this home the identity that a black person owned it to get an offer. And within a week, she had 3 offers.
It's very hard for people that don't ever have to think like that. Like, it would never occur to you the way your house is decorated would cause somebody to not want to live there.
Yeah. Well, and when I was talking to David, he was saying, well,
Not
of course,
on
I
that
never
level.
had to.
He like de-gay his house.
Yeah, he said he had to
before he sold
de-gay
it.
his house because for the exact same reasons. And so I guess why it struck me as profound was because you found a place that I think most people don't really. They don't need to know it exists. Well, really, if you think about it, but I think in finding that place, you find where the rest of humanity has been existing, and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize it was like that, because in a way, your world has never had to
Yeah, you don't have to.
exist in
Well,
that
and
way.
once you know it,
Mario,
you can't unknow it.
Let me enter something here.
Yeah.
Because I'm the oldest guy here.
Yeah.
And the panel has heard me say this before. And you heard me talk about when I sold 100 pounds of pot one summer and I
Right.
got run out of town.
Yeah.
If I was black, what had happened to me?
Oh, you would be. in
You'd
jail.
never have seen the
I
light of day
would
again.
have seen done 7 years.
Yeah.
If not,
Okay.
not just fucking.
So
Maybe longer.
I do understand that. And then what you don't know is I actually continued down the road in a bad way. I got run out of Texas. I got run pretty bad when you get run out of several states, so I wasn't doing very well, right?
Right.
And I ended up on the streets of New Orleans, and I was homeless, sleeping behind dumpsters, and I was in a bad way. I was a drug addict, and I got beat up bad one night. And I went into a bar the next morning, and an old merchant marine was sitting there and looked at me and basically told me I'd had a bad night, and told me to go get a job on Bud's boats. If I was black, do you think that merchant marine,
No,
who was about my
absolutely.
age, probably would have told me that? No, but that I was able to go get a job on those boats, and I crawled up to where I am the success I am today, through the help of a very good woman too. But so I understand that there is white privilege very much too. And because I understand that, I also work with a lot of inner city kids. I got 2 kids that started for me today. Black kids, they're inner city kids. One had worked for me before, didn't have the maturity yet to fully realize what he had there. The biggest challenge I have in this atmosphere with these kids coming out here is that they're entering a world they don't know. They're entering a white construction world, a white Latino construction world. Because, we're 35, 40% Latino. So I have 3 African Americans that work for me. And Tony is an older guy, he's running back for Oklahoma back in the day. So it's almost important that I kind of pick one of those guys with Tony, who's my age, to help them understand what they have to do to survive in this world. And I coach these kids. I coach them hard, because you can achieve success. I will do everything I can to help you to achieve success with my company. And you will make money with my company, but you have to learn a different way. So I'm taking them out, it was just similar to what you were saying in a lot of ways. I'm taking them out of the realm that they're used to and telling them that you have to survive in a different world.
Well, basically.
So that's a tough thing,
It is. Can I say that it is a really weird topic, but it's almost like you're treating them how to act like a white man. Does that
I
make sense?
am absolutely,
like, there's-
and I don't disagree with
There's
that.
like a lot of
I'm telling them how to survive in an outside world.
I totally
And it's
get that.
a
No, but I think-
survival skill.
That's a good way
I
to
think
put
the
it.
point
But I
is
think
that
that-
it's
I
a
think to
white
your
world,
point-
So if you want to survive in that world, then you learn how to be.
If you want to achieve success in this world, you have to change your thoughts.
But that's really hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
It's like asking Megan and I to act like dudes to not be harassed for being women. You know
Actually,
what I mean?
Right,
Just
but that doesn't make
had
it
a
right or
realization.
wrong. It makes it a reality.
Okay.
I'm in a relationship.
But that doesn't
And that's
also
the
make
hard-
it
and
right,
That's the
though.
hard thing
It
to
doesn't.
understand.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't make it right, but I get the necessity for it. But it doesn't always work. That's what I'm saying. Like you can't ask us to act like dudes and expect it to fix the situation.
Well,
of
I
us
could take
being
that
harassed
back
for
to
being women.
2013 where I
Just
hired
an epiphany.
1,300 inner city kids.
Okay.
I failed on every one of them.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Why did I fail? I had to go back and look at it. You don't learn from you don't always learn from your successes. Sometimes you do, but I learned from my failures there. Number one, they want to work no more than 23 hours a week because they were on welfare. And if they worked 40 hours a week, they lost their welfare. So,
I think that there are probably situations where that's true, but I don't think that's always true. I do
no,
think that a lot of
but
people do
in this
want to
particular
have a job.
situation, this is very much the case.
Okay.
The other case was is that they were out in the world they didn't understand, and I didn't coach them well enough
Right.
to say, this is what you're going to have to do. Some of them were good workers. They were smart kids.
Mm-hmm.
They had a ton of potential. But I failed them in being able to find a way to tap into that potential to where they could come out and learn a trade and learn to provide for their families and for themselves, to be able to get a good transportation model, because that's their biggest problem. Inner city kids have trouble getting anywhere.
But here's my question. Here's the larger question in my mind is that, and I want to hear what you have to say as well, but like, as somebody who voted for Trump, how do you feel like, I mean, like you're doing this in a personal level and you have care on a personal level for these problems, but like, what do you feel like this person is going to do for our country that will help fix it from the top down?
Or like,
Well-
how are they going to help you do what you want?
Oh, they're very much. If I can get one person to achieve success, and that person goes back and grabs another person, and maybe grabs two makes four makes 8.
But how
And how will they
16.
survive if the fist from the top is crushing them ultimately overall?
Yeah,
But-
sorry.
but
That
it's-
was so
but it's
bad.
not
That was
because-
like, yeah.
We're teaching them a
good.
trade. We're teaching them how to work. We are, the average age of a construction worker is 46 years old.
Okay.
All right, so most of my cars, we're a 51-year company. We've been around a long time. It's hard to do my business. We're rough-in framers. And so I'm trying to teach these young men that they can come in and learn a trade. We were one of the few companies, we just had our 50th anniversary, obviously, a year ago. One of our old foremen was Marvin. He was a black foreman. You know how many black foremen were in my trade back in the 70s and 60s?
I don't know.
Hardly any. All right? And Mario was there, and I honored him for what he did, because he had to do a very tough and difficult thing. He had to work with a bunch of redneck white boys.
That's hard.
And it was hard.
But you
but
are.
he earned their respect by
you-
out of work.
Yeah, but
and
you're-
his leadership skills.
Your mind is open to that, but not everybody's going to have
No,
that. opinion.
I wouldn't say so, and I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
But I also learned the hard way, because I ended up coming from northeast Missouri when I was a kid, green as hell, and basically a white town, and all of a sudden I'm immersed into Louisiana, which
not
is a
necessarily
totally
white.
different culture of the Cajuns and the blacks and the whites and everybody else down there. And so you get educated. There's no education you can get in any college, anywhere, that understands diversity and understanding how people work and how other people are. But what we did understand is that if we all worked hard and we all worked together, we all gained respect for each other.
So you relate to this
And we achieved
notion.
success. Each one of us achieved success in our own ways.
But how do
But
you
think about all the people that you came from in that northeastern town who have never had a personal
Oh, they're absolutely.
experience.
But my point being for them, though, is that the rural people, the hardest thing for them to understand is that, because they've never experienced it, so they never got away from it. So you want to talk about white privilege, and sure, that's their white privilege. But does that make them bad people? Not necessarily.
No, it doesn't make them
It
better.
does. It does make them slightly ignorant.
It just means that they haven't experienced the same thing that you
Bingo.
have. So, but even if you
So
are
you're hard when
train
you pick on
these-
people like that to say they just don't know.
It is that they don't know. But if you are training these young men to act white, even if they are in the presence of people who are not experienced in diversity,
But I'm
they're
not-
still going to be not white.
Well, I'm
even
not.
if they're
I'm
acting
not
white.
telling them to give up their culture by any stretch of the means.
But you kind of are, and even when they do.
But I am telling them that they can't go out and speak total ebonics to anybody and expect people to understand that.
But you're asking them that.
Wait, hold on.
That's a different
Wait,
thing.
Brian, go ahead.
Who said that acting white is what's correct? Like,
Right.
why is that the standard?
Why is that the standard?
Wait a second. You guys are making an enormously large assumption that
True.
that I find to be the premise to be false. I don't believe the premise to be correct. I do believe that there is things that society as a whole values, not regardless of race, creed, culture, gender, anything else. There are things that they value. So I would give you the example of blacks in Canada, blacks in Europe, blacks everywhere else, except for America. And I think a lot of the problem has been, well, the history of blacks in America has been horrendous. So, okay, I would definitely accept that as a premise. And I have always said the worst problem that this country has ever had, in addition to slavery, which was just horrendous, was that there has been a lack of an ability to build an economic infrastructure in neighborhoods. So this has been a huge problem. And you can make the argument that, well, about 70 years ago they tried to fix that. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know the democratic principles are always correct. I think sometimes they make the problem worse by saying, okay, let's overreact on the other side and give you a whole shit ton of government programs, which you then become dependent on and can't get out of. And it's very hard. And I think the values that were around were regardless of race, creed, color, gender, whatever the case is. And I know that has not been as easy for anybody else in this world other than probably white dudes, and I would agree with you on that. But at some point, I'm saying, if you see your neighbor shoot another dude, you should probably report that. Like, that is your personal responsibility, and that's a way out. Then you can start to build up your neighborhoods, you can start to build up economic infrastructure. There was honestly, and we've had this discussion before, what started the 2008 collapse in housing was a Jimmy Carter law that was passed where it forced banks to give undeserving loans in areas where they wanted to keep a branch. So regardless of whether you were creditworthy or not, you were forced to give credit to whatever the percentage of the population was, or you would have to shut down your branch of your bank. That didn't do anybody any favors. All it did,
predatory.
It was, well, not only was it predatory, it's a federal law. In order to keep your branch open, if you're Bank of America, and I'm a fan of Bank of America, but if you're going to keep your Bank of America branch open at 31st and Paseo, well, then you better now abide by this federal law,
Dole out those loans.
which states that I have to now give loans to people who can't afford it.
So it's
which-
like when
which
you're a
puts
police
them
officer, you
further
have to
and
write a
further
number of tickets at the end of the month to get your quota.
But it's very complicated issue.
Yeah,
hang
it's
on.
much more
So what I'm
complicated.
saying is,
Very
all,
complicated.
all that ended up happening, the net result of that was putting people further and further into debt that they could not afford. It was horrendous, and it was meant with all the best of intentions, and it ended up being a horrific bill that literally was responsible for the 2008 collapse in
And
housing.
they destroyed,
Because what happened
the
is,
families in the
as a
process.
bank, so if you're Bank of America and you're making all these shitty loans, you don't want these on your books. So you start to bundle them and sell them to other people who are willing to take the risk, but it just increases the interest rate.
Of course.
on
You're
the
just
people
like
who have
hiding
taken
the mess,
loan.
and the mess is getting worse.
That's it. So there's a point of me that says, listen, I am more than happy to go. Dude, I'm a lucky motherfucker. I grew up You know,
And I am too.
middle class to reasonably and upper middle class, whatever the case was. But then did everything stupid afterwards. Dropped out of school. Was an idiot. Didn't graduate. Didn't do anything else. But yet, probably because I was a white dude, people were willing to give me a chance. But I would say that I've taken that lesson and gone, okay, so then I will hire other people who I don't think were ever given a chance just because I feel like they deserve a chance. But you also want that person to meet you halfway in between and come with a responsibility. And it's not a white responsibility. If I'm hiring you to do a job, I just want you to do the job. I don't care what
I
you
would
are,
like to
just
add
do
something
the
to
job.
this. Yes. So I
You
think
know?
that I agree with you that everything has led to where we are now. Like,
Sure.
of course, economics are a huge part of it. Our ideology is also another huge part of it. So when you say something like, these people that I hire that I want to give a chance to don't know how to act.
I'm not saying
They're-
that at all.
Well, okay, I'm saying that in a generalized way. What I mean is that sometimes when you put someone, let's say like you put me in a position where I would have to exist in an all heterosexual male climate,
Okay.
and you're like, why can't you succeed here? And I will maybe try very hard to navigate that world, but I am not of that world. Like I can see different elements of it, and I can like try to act the right way, but ultimately there are things that I am not that I can never match to what you are.
I will throw out, and I despise personal examples. I really despise them
Okay,
because
all right.
I do not.
But I
believe
can't
it.
give you anything but a personal
No,
example.
I get it, but because I was about to give you one too, because I
Oh,
really
okay.
don't, I really don't like them as rules. They don't set rules; they
Right.
just tell you your bizarre experience with somebody. The highest paid person we had to live with was a woman who was a phenomenal salesperson. Judy Rush is a phenomenal,
You know Judy Rush.
phenomenal salesperson.
She's
Terry
phenomenal at
Rogers
everything.
was an incredible businesswoman.
Yes.
I mean, I can throw out a list of people who are incredible, who
Of course.
we would say, oh, they came from a disadvantage or they were forced to play in this world. That's not true. They were just really smart. And they looked at the business and said, here's how I'm going to go about the business. They
But
mostly
there's
did
also
not
many
change
different
themselves.
ways of having intelligence. So like
Sure.
you can have intelligence with people-to-people contact, and that can be like the thing that gets you through everything. But what if your intelligence isn't in that, you know, and you are in a position where because of what you look like, you are already having experienced your entire life a different experience.
Yeah, I can tell you when I worked at Sprint and I worked at Joy TV, and my job was to go into very large call centers, restructure them, fire as many people as I could, make them profitable, and then leave. So
Okay.
that's what I did before I started Liquid Nine. And on every single sheet that we gave somebody, you obviously crossed out the name, but you said, just letting you know we're being fair. And we fired some of our best workers just because you had to be this, our workforce is this percentage of gender, race, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to give them a list. And you've seen this at DST, I'm sure. A list that says, here's the demographics. We're not being unfair here. This is the list.
But I think,
You know, and
we're
I
getting
would say-
off track of what the
Yeah.
original conversation
No,
was.
but
a little
no.
bit.
I think this is right on track. I'm saying that there's a meeting in the middle. I'm not going to say that white male power dominates the world all the time. What I'm saying is there's also a meeting in the middle. If I lived in a neighborhood that was just dog shit, you know, I mean, my God, I'm going to do whatever I can to clean up my neighborhood. That's meeting to me in the middle. In Chicago, most of the murders, because there's a fuck ton of murders in Chicago, it sucks. Most of them are black on black crime. It's horrible. It's horrendous, you know. And so at some point, I'm saying there has to be a meeting in the middle of all the various cultures and things. It can't just be
But the issue
white dudes
is-
feeling so bad all the shitty
No,
time.
and I
It's
don't
not
think
about
that's-
feeling bad.
but
It
the
is,
issue-
if we want to make the change.
No,
If we're saying it's a
it's
white
about
power
realizing
world,
what you can do with the power that you have.
I would
And-
agree.
and
Well,
not
and I
necessarily-
think
But I think
that's the
everybody has
actually
the power.
but I think
That's
that's
the
the
point.
I think that is the point. I think everybody does have the power, but to your point, it's realizing what your power is.
I mean,
And I'm sorry, but
No, go ahead,
my
Meg.
biggest question that like I think ties back also to like this rally we're talking about, right? Trump as a thing. Just out of curiosity for me, like there's a lot of like bickering we can do underneath this umbrella, but like my biggest question is like, so I'm assuming you did not vote for Trump.
I did not vote for Trump,
And
but
he
I will
did.
tell you why I would have.
But let me just say real quick. Let me just say that like the two of you both have just like proved to us why you relate to the struggle, right? Like in some ways, so that you like overcome certain things, and there's certain things that you like, you know, that you feel you're doing to with your power to give opportunity to people. Like
Sure.
you both are relating to that, and yet one of you believed in this leader, and one of you did not, perhaps, or perhaps you do now. But I'm curious to see like how it was that you relate to this experience of pulling yourself off from a certain place, and that you're relating to us on feeling a certain way about humanity, and yet you also have felt like this person is fit to care from people from the top down and make like also this law that fucked all of these
Sure.
banks. I mean, that came from the top down. How do we feel about like what is going on with the power of our country?
That
Like,
was white people trying to help black people out and saying, no, we want you guys to be able to afford a home. To be perfectly honest, this was a very
We
democratic.
want you to achieve success. More than
presidency.
anything.
Here's what I would say is, I wanted a woman president so bad. I just wanted a female president. Same reason I voted for Obama. I wanted a black president just because I think it's silly that it's an issue. I find it to be absolute nonsense that we still get hung up on these things. I think it's nonsense. I wanted the best person for the job. The reason I could have, in theory, understood why people voted for Trump, although I think he's a classic moron and he has proven himself to be basically
We
stupid.
disagree on this issue.
Is that he ran on the case of saying, listen, I'm going to bring basically manufacturing or lower blue collar jobs back and that kind of stuff. And to me, this is the start of building an economic infrastructure for people who may, large groups of people who may not have had, they may not even have GEDs for God's sakes. But I tell you that they can probably kick ass in manufacturing. They can kick ass at construction. They can do all kinds of things that then, and every study after every study in the universe shows that two-family households stay together much longer, and you develop a decent amount of an economic base. Your kids are more likely to graduate school at that point.
So,
And this is what
The
I
stats are there on
So
that.
if you wanted to believe in Trump, and I did not believe Trump, I think he's a complete ass liar, and I think he screwed over a lot of small businesses, and I think he's just dumber than a box of rocks. But if you bought into what he was saying, which a lot of people did, in a lot of places that had never voted Republican before, you would say, well, I'm hoping that this guy brings back jobs that would return manufacturing to
It is
America
hope.
and can build an economic infrastructure for people who are blue collar.
but
Sorry, Jack.
no, it's fine. But you're talking about meeting in the middle. How do you decide what the middle is when nobody has the same starting point?
yeah.
This
Or
is
same
not- this is
your
not-
starting point is different than mine.
No,
It's
no, no,
different
no, no.
than yes, it is.
It's so different.
Yes,
I
it
agree.
is,
No, I
and
think-
that's the fundamental
I
thing.
think
Should
there
that
are
cripple you?
objective truths in this world.
It shouldn't cripple you, but
Why can't
it's
you
wait.
rise above things?
No.
But here's the
Well,
thing.
okay.
I would
Wait. We just
okay.
real quick.
Give me one quick
I
second.
no, I definitely don't want to use any kind of personal anecdotes, but I will say that I think, to the anonymous female's point, that I think that's the underpinning question. Is I think everybody would like to believe we all start at the same or a similar point,
I disagree.
but I don't
I
think
don't
we
agree with
do.
that.
I don't think we do at all.
I don't agree.
Nobody
I
does.
think we all start at
Nobody does.
different points,
Yeah.
but I think we all.
Yeah, but to put a personal spin on it, I think you asked the question earlier, Dave, is with all of the things that you had gotten yourself into earlier in life, what may have happened had you been a black guy? and
It'd been
Or a minority
it'd been a
of
harder
any
road.
kind.
It'd been a harder road. And
Yeah, well,
I-
but I think harder
admitted
is.
that.
I think harder. Yeah, no, I don't. I think you did admit it, but
How much harder?
But that's the question. Is I think that the road would have been exponentially harder. For
But I think that goes
but-
back
okay,
to-
for example, I'm fairly smart, fairly competent. I think I'm a pretty decent guy and communicator.
That's
we
why,
love
that's
you,
why we
baby.
sit around
We love
this
you.
podcast with you.
But I have seen the faces when I walk into job interviews.
Sure.
And they look at my resume and they're really trying hard to put the paper to the face. And I can watch them going through the motions of how can I justify giving this guy a shot just because I'm 6'1", 250 plus black guy versus a 6'1", 250 plus white guy
If it
coming
was-
in for the
Wait a
same
second.
job.
Let me throw out two things.
If it was me,
Well, wait. I'll throw out two
No,
things.
and look, I love all you guys,
I know.
but I do believe, and look, I hate that I believe it, but I believe it because of experience.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you two things.
Yeah.
One, we've all talked about how nobody understands each other's experience. We're trying to.
Yeah, which is the
Trying
whole
to
point. Yeah.
understand it. So I believe that you believe that's what the person was thinking in their head.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say for sure that's what the person was thinking in their head. I'm going to say I think that is what you interpret as the person thinking in their head based on your experiences. And I will give you that 1,000% because everybody wants to think what the other person is thinking, and this is why things happen and didn't happen, and yada.
Yeah.
I don't know that to always be true, especially in this day and age. I think oftentimes it's quite the opposite. But beyond that, you were asking what did I mean by meet in the middle? There are basic expectations. I mean that I think are universal and aren't even up for contradiction or debate. One is if you hire somebody. You need them to show up and do the job.
Yes,
let's be
I
honest.
get that,
No,
but
hang on.
you have to admit that
Hear me
it's
out.
not. all
You're
right.
saying we're starting from a different starting point. I'm saying we're not. I'm saying there are some very, very basic ground rules that are so easy. But really.
There are basic ground rules, Chris, but they're not. There's other factors that always come into play.
Exactly.
And you
And
can't,
make the universe.
and until you can, not you personally, but until you, the collective, can understand and actually acknowledge
We're having
that.
an issue with collective.
I think that what Chris is trying
It's
to
society.
say-
You
Whether-
know what? You
how
want to
you
call them
treat-
personal
but-
problems because
But
everybody's
how
got.
you treat people
you
is
know,
not the same.
everybody's
How
got it,
Dave
though.
treats people, how
I think that-
Mari. I mean, it's just it's
So,
not
real-
the
real-
same.
real
We
quick,
just
real
picked
quick.
a whole group of people that just.
But you
said,
also
"Hey,
did the
wait a
same
second."
thing that you were like, I expect a basic, I have basic expectations for who I hire, and you
No.
suggesting that the group that you hired, that you are giving a chance to, can't meet those
No,
expectations.
that's
in a
not the
universal
case
way.
at all. In
No,
fact,
I didn't hear that. I
that's
will give
not
Chris that. I didn't
remotely
hear
what I
that.
said.
Well, are you talking
I
about
said
somebody
that-
specific then, or
No, I said there's a basic expectation as an employer
right?
when you hire somebody that they're able to show up and perform the job.
Well,
duties.
but the way you
And
said
so-
it sounded like you were saying like, and this, and I make
No,
a point that they
Not
can
at
do
all.
it.
Let me-
So-
let me
Literally,
take you
that's
back
the
to the late
bare
70s.
minimum that
That
you
is
have
not
to do
Chris.
to maintain a job.
Okay, then what?
That's the
just it.
bare
That's all you're
minimum.
saying.
I swear to God, and I have literally hired 4,000 people plus in my life. The basic expectation in this
you
universe,
Wait, but
the
why?
job.
and this is not
Why do you feel like you need to say that right now?
because
Because he's
this
hired
is
a lot of people and
No,
so
But
have I.
why?
Because this
Why
is
in
not
this
a
specific
personal
moment
example.
when we were talking about like being different than white man?
Right.
Why do you feel the need to say
But
this specifically?
But then I heard over 4,000
everybody's
people.
equal in how we
Here's-
see them.
this is
Can
why.
you do the job?
Well, wait a second. So, no, I would agree.
Okay,
So you
fine.
are all literally, and this transcends race, religion, creed,
Right.
anything under the sun.
Okay.
If you are hiring for a job, you just need the person to be able to show up and do the job.
Of course.
That's it. That's
That's
all
it.
I'm saying.
All right,
So
great. I
if
agree.
there's a stopping in that, If that doesn't happen and you get fired, that's not out of your race, that's not out of your gender.
But you
that's
can't
not
say
out
that
of
universally
anywhere.
that doesn't happen only because of those elements.
In most jobs, I think it does.
You can only speak to
In
your
today's
experience.
world,
You
in
can't
today's
speak
world, I
to
think that
every
does. I
other
think that
company.
is.
Okay,
that
wait.
hires
Okay, give me 1 second before
I will
everybody
tell
jumps in.
you.
Let me jump in. Because I do believe.
I got
Want me to
one
scoot
other
over?
thing.
Just give me 1 second. 1 second.
Everybody.
One second. Because I do believe, truly in my spirit, that you two hire for the correct reasons. And you fire for the correct reasons. I believe you hire the right person for the job and you fire because they were incompetent for the job. I believe that wholeheartedly. Now, I don't believe every company does that.
But I
now,
think it's a minority.
Give me 1 second.
I think it's a minority that acts that way.
No, give me 1 second. Well, one, I want to say we have been joined.
Make sure you don't want to scoot up.
Wait, no, the mic can pick him up. Trust me.
Okay.
So one, I want to say we've been joined by one of our longtime contributors to the podcast, Lane Bolin, into this healthy discussion. And before we go on, I want to get Lane's comments because I can see in his face that he's chopping at the bit.
Oh no, I'm not. I don't want to say anything. I'm just enjoying the.
But you want to say something? I can see.
Let me throw
Brian
it
was gonna say- wait, Brian was gonna say-
Wait.
Also,
let
you
you
were
go.
going to say something
Wait,
too
give a
long
second.
time.
Yeah, okay,
Ben's been
Epiphany.
You had an epiphany.
No, I've actually completely forgotten what I was going to say.
Oh no.
I will tell you what I was
You
going
said
to
you were
say.
in a relationship and you had an
And you were like, I have an epiphany.
I will
I'm in
say
a
this.
relationship.
Okay.
He's dating
I do not
an
believe this is two
African-American
people
woman.
sitting at a table.
I wasn't
going,
gonna
"We
go
are
there."
unique in the world.
Where are we
What I
gonna
will
go?
tell you is that the way that major
No,
companies
it wasn't
work
that.
anymore
I know that.
is very different.
I will say that I do
Out of
think
fear
in
of
the
a
past
lawsuit, out of the
decade
fear of
it has
everything,
improved.
It is completely different. It
I will
is
say it is.
not the
I will
same.
say that I do think it has improved in the past decade.
Does everyone at this table believe that that improvement will last in the current climate?
Yes,
Absolutely.
No.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
No.
No, absolutely.
Don't
The,
believe
fe-
it.
We're
the
business
federal
people.
laws
Don't
are
believe it.
everywhere.
I don't think so.
Maybe
no.
for you two.
No.
Overall, we
Here's what
talk
the
all
promise
kinds of
is.
business people.
You and I would have a problem.
We're
You know,
involved with many
These
groups.
two would have a problem?
Because we both work for small businesses. Small businesses have very different rules and standards of expectations, or even things that you have to do at a federal
You're a small
level
business.
that would put you
I am a small
in a position.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Sprint can't just go in and go, hey, I'm gonna lay off every black dude and woman that I know. You know, they can't do that. I can tell you who can is Liquid 9 and RW2 for sure. They could do that anytime they wanted, and we'll just make up a reason why, and then we're gone. You know, I don't have to give you a list if I lay you off. I don't even have to have a reason to fire you. I can just do it because
So you
it's a
say
right to
there are
work
laws.
state.
I get that there are laws
So,
in place. that
so
prevent
there is for major corporations, which employ about half the people in the country, there are massive regulations on when, how you can go about laying people off, those kinds of things. Small
Even I have
businesses
to
are
be
different,
careful of that.
and small businesses employ the other half of America, and this is where I would absolutely buy into your argument that that there are probably a shit ton of people who fire people for all the wrong reasons. They don't like them. They don't hire them probably in the first place.
My wife was a recent victim of this.
Okay. Wait, can I interject something?
Yeah,
Because it's
no,
related to what you were saying
absolutely.
earlier.
Yeah,
So,
please.
like, let's say that you are a business person that has hired someone who isn't a white dude.
Are a small business or a corporation?
Doesn't matter.
No,
It matters because
maybe.
No,
this is
it
why
does-
wait,
it
this is
matters.
why it matters.
It
This is why it
does
matters
matter.
because
Okay.
you're saying that the basic expectation is show up and you do the job.
I'm saying if you were at a large corporation, you are bound by federal law.
I'm actually
And
talking
the small
about
businesses-
just being able to show up and do the job.
So
That's it.
Okay.
let's say
I
small
like to hear your
business.
opinion.
Okay,
Let's say small
so
business.
let's say that we are in this climate
Mhm.
and we have someone who is not a white dude who is out in the world and there are no regulations on person-to-person contact or your opinion about that person and how they're going to act in any kind of outdoor social climate, outside of a work environment. There's no protection for discrimination, correct? There's no law that protects you from thinking and acting on your discriminatory.
Your civil
feelings.
rights are always protected, even as a small business.
You can't control how people think.
No, I'll tell you there's discrimination in my company.
I'm telling you, you can't fire
Absolutely,
somebody
So
over civil
let's
rights.
just say though, you can't control
fire
how
somebody over civil
people
rights issue.
think and how they categorize people, right? You can't.
No, I can't
Sure,
stop
there's
that.
like a law
How-
for if there's an outcome.
How they profile a culture is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Like if you act against the law and you cause someone bodily harm or property harm, whatever, right? Then
hate
you,
crimes or like
sure. Then you are acting against, and you have protections put in place. That
Absolutely not. Even as a corporation, you cannot get rid of that person.
I'm
because
not
it's-
talking about that. Wait, I haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that far
Yeah,
yet. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Slow
Unless
down,
they-
slow
No,
down,
this is
slow down.
not. This is
If
not
they
about a
violate the
corporation
law,
in any
you
way.
can.
I am just talking
If they
about
violate the
being
law, you
out
can.
in the world in a non-job situation in any way. Like you just existing from the time you get off of work till the time you have to be at work. That is like more than 12 hours of time.
Just
where
people you
are-
interact with on the street.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
let's say like 16 hours of time when you're not
yes,
at work. Okay,
there are
so
16 hours in the day when you are not in a regulated
You're
environment.
asleep for 8 of them. and so
Sure,
there's
okay,
no
fine.
way.
So
That's
let's
a part
just
of it,
say
though. Anyway.
there are
So
8
let's be
hours in
honest.
the day when
Then
you
you
are
can
not.
fuck up real bad.
Something.
And we all fuck up pretty bad.
Can you
here.
guys just let her get her scenario
There
out?
are things that can happen in the 4 hours after work and maybe like the 2.5 hours before work, whatever, that can be completely based on someone profiling you that may not be totally within the lines of being against the law, but can screw up all of your ability to get to and from work.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So like
So what you're saying
these
is-
things can.
I don't
This
disagree with
doesn't-
that at all.
Crime
No,
is
no,
called driving
I
while
know
black.
exactly where.
Thank you. That is one of them. Driving while black is one of them. And then another
I
one
knew
is
Lane had
just
something
like
to say.
being a woman anywhere, ever, at any time. Something can happen that will prevent you
Affect
from.
your ability to get to work.
To
and
get
should
anywhere.
your employer act in a way that could be detrimental to your employment based on that circumstance?
Well, first off, there's
go to-
Even
That's not
that all
necessarily
would
true.
suck, and that can happen. But I'm just saying that, like, I would like for you to realize that beyond the economy inside of a job, there is a lot more that happens that can prevent you, and it can be psychological, from
yes.
being able to exist and experience the same thing that you
But
experience
I will tell
in
you-
that time from getting off of work to going back to work.
So
Every
you're-
one of
I-
my
absolutely.
hang on one
That's
second.
bullshit.
Every one of my
It's
employees.
bullshit?
That's not bullshit.
Every one of my employees, I'm told, is family first.
Wow, Chris.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Your family comes before my business. If you have a family situation,
Exactly.
you need to call me and tell me you have a family
This is about the
situation.
outside world, not their family.
What if-
Yeah,
what
and
if-
I think
because
that I
things
feel like
happen.
I'm preaching to a choir
No,
here,
no,
for
no.
sure.
And so
But
what
I'm
if
just
this
trying to
person
bring
is
up
detained
things that you
against
might
their will
not
and
think
isn't
about.
giving communication.
Or that you
It's like-
couldn't because you have
you expect them to
experience
go like-
Right.
personally.
That's
Right.
actually illegal. In which case, you can sue somebody.
That's
right.
That's
I'll
that's
take
illegal.
that.
And I-
Okay, well,
Brian,
So
Brian?
say something did happen. It doesn't matter what it is. It didn't have to do with family. But you ended up being late. I'm the boss. And you have a reason. And you even communicate that to me. Based on how I view you, if I already have an idea, like I've profiled you, I could say, it doesn't matter, you were late.
But there are
Right. And
things
you're
that can
arguing that
happen that
there's
you
a
don't even know
discrepancy
how
there,
to
right?
like
What if you're late 3 times a week for
explain.
the
You
same
know, like
bullshit?
it can
You're
feel
gonna get
That's
fired.
like you are being
Perfect
made
point.
crazy.
But that happens.
Hang on.
I know.
I don't have
No,
an
I want to
example.
hear what she
I
said.
don't have one,
But I
but
think
I know that
that's-
they
that
exist
makes
because it
sense to me.
happens.
And we're talking about everyone, like, does everyone have the same starting point?
yes.
And, you know, you're talking about, well, I hire someone and I have basic expectations.
Now you have a basic starting point.
I completely agree. Everyone has these same expectations. But what about all those people that never even got to a point where they can apply?
I would. Well, wait a second. This is different, and this is where I say, again, I agree with your point.
But
Not
why did
everybody-
they get there?
Wait a
Is the
second.
question.
So not everybody has the same opportunity. Not everybody is guaranteed a job. Not everybody is guaranteed the same opportunities of anything. You're not. You're just not. In general in life, unfair as it is, and I don't care where you go in the universe, you don't have the same opportunities.
Not
I don't-
kumbaya.
It could be for any number of reasons. You may not be as bright as somebody else. I'm clearly not as bright as Mark Zuckerberg, and he somehow managed to kill it. You know, and I'm clearly not as smart as Who's the
Actually-
dude on Shark Tank?
Actually, I have
Damon's,
an entire
I
story.
love that dude. Like, he clearly was smarter than me.
I don't think we were arguing that there should be
What I am saying is that
all fair opportunity for everybody, for sure.
well,
On different
there can't
intelligence.
possibly be because
But
there's
can I
so many
just
other
say that
factors.
the reason I think we're talking about any of the reason why we're here in general is just to say that I think it's our job, right, to realize what we can do because of the color of our skin and where we are
Sure.
at our point right now.
But let me start by saying
Free
that
culture,
I believe,
skin, gender.
Yes.
I believe that
Yes.
Free equality,
that
upon
also starts
productivity.
with
Okay, yeah.
That
Yeah.
starts with overcoming just some of the basic preconceptions that everybody has. You're asking a white dude to give up his preconceptions about, anybody else in the world. I'm asking you to go, not everything is based on gender, your race, your religion, or anything else.
I actually
I'm
think that
saying
there are
there's-
things that we could celebrate in the
there's a
way that
middle
we
ground.
categorize people.
This
Like
is
instead
what
of
I mean
making
by
everything sort of
Could I-
instead of assuming that because Mario is black, he's going to get less opportunity, and trying to figure out
I
how
don't
we can.
assume that.
No.
I don't
I'm
assume
not
that at
saying that.
all.
I am
No. Well,
I am not saying that you are. But what
Well,
I'm,
and actually, I
I'm
think
using a
that.
personal example, which I think you don't like, so I'm going to do it in a different way.
But I think the interesting thing, before you move on, is I do think, in a very strange way, we're saying the same things.
Yes, agreed.
It's because you two who run businesses have scrubbed that from your mind. Like, you don't hire or fire for the wrong reasons.
But that was prior to even me running my own businesses.
No. I guess, but what I'm saying is,
All we want is people want to come to work.
even if
Do
you
the
didn't
job.
even if you didn't call it, white privilege or whatever, you realize at some point that everybody didn't start at the same points, and people needed a shot that maybe wouldn't have normally gotten a shot. So you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna give them a shot, and so I guess what I'm saying is, we're arguing, but I think we're arguing the exact same point. I think what she's saying is to the table, but it's for the benefit of podcast land. That at a certain point, it's not about me having less opportunities because I'm a black guy, or them having less opportunities because they're a woman. It's okay, where are we as humans,
Right.
and what privileges do we have just because we are who we are, and how do we focus those?
And what perspectives might we not have by never having the experience of
give you that.
another person?
But
So we don't always have the perspective, but what I would say is none of us have any other perspective. And what troubles me tremendously,
I love that you just said that.
because this really does trouble me quite a bit, is the assumption that, oh, I didn't get the job because I was a woman, I didn't get it because I was black, I didn't get it because of this or that. Sometimes things just don't work. Sometimes there's a better candidate. Sometimes there's any number of things. Sometimes you're not fired for those reasons either. What I would say is, I believe there are a lot of times that you are. So I would give you that, and I'm not denying that. Hang on one second. Let me finish this, because this I think is going to be. I just want to get this point out. I think anymore in today's culture, there's also not an acknowledgement of massive male white guilt that says, I look for opportunities actively to go find people who I think need helping hand or would be better off and serve. For example, I will never, ever, ever go to a lawyer, doctor, professional person that is not either black or a woman, period. Because I understand in a weird way, they have had to work probably 10 times as hard as the white dude who made it. Because probably he just came from Mission Hills and he's a douchebag and went to some stupid frat at KU.
Maybe their
And I
parents paid
don't
for
want
the
him operating on me at all.
Also
You
an
know?
assumption, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
But I think the assumption can work both ways
Sure,
on
that's
both
true.
times.
Totally true.
So,
And I'm the same way. I actually go out of my way to try to find individuals that have not had the opportunities that I've had to turn around and give them a chance to earn a trade.
So how do you
Okay.
feel about Trump? Tell me, please. I'm dying to
Okay,
know.
so now that we have found a common ground.
I think we should celebrate the accomplishments to a certain degree. One, I'm the only white dude in America who thinks OJ did not do it. But beyond that, I also think in the last 8 years we had a black president. We had a woman run for president who should have won and just ran a piss poor campaign. Otherwise, she would be president. Which I don't think you can blame Trump for that. That she just ran a piss poor campaign. If they had listened to Bill Clinton, she'd be president right now. Who told her, "Hey, why don't you go to the suburbs in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Pennsylvania and Michigan and talk to these people who've lost their jobs?" And she didn't go to any one of them.
I feel like we can't talk about that in that kind of way because it happened the way it did, and there are probably many.
It is what it is now.
It did. So, but she won the popular vote. So I do think when you say why would you vote for Trump, well, more people voted for Hillary actually.
I'm asking him specifically.
I would say this, and I would again. I've never voted for Trump ever in my life because I think he's a goddamn idiot and he's a TV star.
And I get on.
But what I would say is, one of the biggest things that is out there and that you hear about all the time is the equal work for equal pay. And this is a big thing. And
Wait, hold on. Let me put a pin in that because that is a whole podcast to itself. No, because we're already hour 47. So let me. So I gotta put a pin in that because that's a whole podcast, and I really wish
Just
that you
the three of us
ladies
talked about it for an
were
hour and
in
a half the other
town
night.
all right.
for that discussion.
Can I go back to my question?
But okay, so before we move forward,
I'm sorry. This is great.
going back.
So it was the question was what group of people did you go and experience
we came away feeling differently about than I thought we would.
Yeah, that you possibly wanted to change their minds, but that you did so, but they also changed your perspective on what they were doing as well.
You can go first.
I would like to say that we've never gone in. I mean, this is just how you word it, but no big deal. But I don't think we've ever gone in trying to change the minds of anybody. Though we may have disagreed with any of them. The whole point, it's like it's not like a sting mission or something, But we, I will say that we went into the Juggalo gathering kind of hoping that would happen. I did not.
You would think something different.
Yeah, I thought that it's funny because at the same time that we were there, feeling lots of feelings, we were watching Vice come out with all these really. They always go and do all these kind of snarky, funny exposés
they
over
how
they're there. Well, actually,
they also hipsterized.
No, here. Yeah. Let me just say that basically at this exact one we were at, we went to something called the Miss Juggalette pageant, and it was one of the more sick things we witnessed while we were there.
It was the worst display of misogyny I've ever experienced.
But it was also just horrifying in lots of other ways. So, but then they came out with an article about how full of love it was and how joyful it was.
Which I couldn't, it was the same exact thing that we said.
And we were standing right there next to them. And it was we were horrified, and we were of course if we just read this, you wouldn't know any better, which is the whole reason we're over there, right? Yeah. And we left feeling like this was a completely nihilistic and lost group of people.
I wanted us to leave early because of that experience, which we never do. We always stay.
Yeah, we stayed the whole time, and we really did everything. We met some really nice people. I literally was texting with some of them. We were out the whole time, but I did not leave feeling like they were some very sweet and misunderstanding souls, but there were some women that we witnessed, and not only, but there were some men who were all very hardworking people who were really, just found a lot of community in what they were doing.
They saved up really hard to get there.
Yeah, they loved it, and we were, there were a few who were very, very sweet, and that was great. But
I actually kind of felt that way whenever the Trump election was coming along, and right after the pussy grabbing videotape came out, there were 4 women that I met in the patio of the Phoenix.
Which is rape, by the way.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, how can you possibly still fucking support this guy? And they just had this, he didn't really mean it and all this stuff. And I was just like, fuck, are you kidding me?
Well, that's what's wrong with society, though, in general.
Yeah.
And I know you hate that, but people tend to just, oh, well, that's just his character. That's just
I kind of
his
understand these
personality.
There were a lot of
But
women.
it's
jokes,
not
you know,
okay.
like, it's a
That's the thing.
misogynistic
Nobody
culture.
agrees, but there were a lot of women.
But a lot of
who-
them mean
I'm not
well, I
talking just
guess.
about Trump though. I'm talking about in general. People when they know someone or want to continue to liking someone, they will
Find a way.
blow off. Oh,
I
that's
agree.
just them. You know, just ignore it.
This
But
is
that's
my-
not okay.
This is my hard part about dividing people into large sections of the demographic, because it is repulsive to me that somebody would come out and publicly admit, and I heard him talk about it in our restaurant.
Yeah.
He's like, I just go to women and grab their pussies. Well, no, that's fucking illegal and it's rape and you should be put in jail. And yet there were so many women I knew.
He also
women
called
are.
his daughter a hot piece of ass.
He did, and said he would fuck her if he was younger. So I mean, it was
Dave,
wrong
this is
what
true,
he
man.
did. It's completely illegal to do that. You should have been thrown in jail, and yet women are not a voting bloc. Women are
Well, he's
just
also
women
a
with all
billionaire,
their
has a lot of
own
money, a lot of
opinions.
lawyers.
You each have your own
That's
opinion,
true.
and they're divided amongst many things. So yes, more women vote for Trump than men, but it wasn't by an enormous proportion.
No, actually,
there
there
were
were
still
a
like
ton of women
40% of the women who
said
in
this was
America
okay.
voted for Trump.
And we're gonna go
That
ahead and
is
be like,
not okay.
Right.
That's illegal.
We
That
also
is
are
actually illegal.
struggling with that too. Like, I think all women who have experienced this very specific
Yeah.
moment and realizing that half or more of us were okay with that, it's very hard.
One in
It's
four
very hard
women
to
have been
understand.
raped. I mean, what happens, and I will absolutely be on your side all the way on this percent. It is disgusting. Throw those people in jail. Get rid of the bad apples, and I think you start to find a little bit better of a culture.
Yeah, throw them in jail.
Honestly, enforce it.
I
It is
also-
disgusting.
It's a
what
weird,
some
it's a
people
weird,
do.
like, it's a weird cultural thing too, though, that we kind of get excited by this violence as like a parallel to sexualness or what-
Sure.
It's like an
Sure.
erotic way of.
Yep.
On social media.
I think it's more than that,
I think
though.
it's
That brings a lot over.
I think
No,
it's-
it existed a long
it's
time before
puritanical,
that.
kind of like
I
this.
do too.
This
well, there are people who are used
depriving
to it.
yourself
There are
so
people
much
who's
that
used
you
to a
have
pattern
to
of
have
abuse.
pain. Yes,
And
it's like
people
an
are
abuse.
okay with that pattern of abuse.
And
They've
women
experienced
can
it,
be
and
that
so
way, too.
they
And we kind of have
actually
experienced it
identify with it.
in little ways that we don't even always realize that it has become ingrained in our
Well, it
existence,
runs in-
or in our what we are attracted to.
No
you know?
offense, I don't mean it not to be crude or disgusting, but my God, I've slept with them and pull my hair, choke me, blah blah blah, I do whatever. I'm like, okay, this.
But what you
this is
do
getting a
privately
little- this is
when you're
getting a
between
little
two
out
people
there.
who are
Which-
consenting, right? That's very different from like
I'm
the way
completely-
that things are presented to
I'm
you.
completely okay with that. I
in
think it
the media.
sets.
But what
I
if
think
it's
it
a
sets
prize?
a standard of this is what women like, and guys, stupid guys will go, okay, this is okay.
But
This
then
is now
stupid women
okay.
are like, okay,
And then
this is okay.
stupid women are think it's
Yeah,
okay.
it's two consensual
Well,
parties.
whatever. There are things you can be into that have nothing to do with
Yeah, I
actual.
agree.
And this is like sort of a moot thing.
I agree at this point,
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I am
No, I
saying
wouldn't,
is,
I wouldn't say mood.
it
I would
all
say
sets
that
a weird stage.
those actual.
Okay, well, wait, before we go on,
yeah.
because we're gonna need to wrap up. We're gonna need to
Because
wrap
we could
up.
do this all day.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
I know.
Because obviously, we struck a nerve that we'll need to delve into 2 or 3 different podcasts. But
Been a great podcast.
Honestly, I think you guys have
oh
been
yeah, but
We love
this
this
has
kind
been a
of stuff.
phenomenal conversation. But what I don't normally do, which I will do, is I want to give our last 2 questions to our guests to ask the panel, because I think we've asked a lot of questions and given a lot of our opinions, but I'm sure that there are questions that you guys came in here wanting to be able to ask, and shoot.
Nailed you on that one, didn't I? After everything
Well,
we covered, yeah.
Megan
has a
specifically
question.
wanted
Yeah.
to ask Dave.
Right.
Well, I just was. I mean, I think it's really cool that that both of you have, like, that you are relating in all these ways to things that people are going through, and that that you're doing a lot within your power you're doing what you can within your power to give opportunities to people. I think that's an important thing to be really concerned with, and like it's really awesome to meet people who like keep that at the forefront of their business and are working small business and work really hard. But I just think it's interesting that I guess I'm just curious to find out how you feel like this person is going to change policy in this country to do what you're doing on a smaller level. Like, how can you have faith in this person who's, I would argue, is not running his business like you are?
This question is particularly for Dave.
Yeah.
For me, and Lane understands this too. We've talked about this.
He's like, I'm out.
Part of the problem on this has been social engineering, and that's really where a lot of this went during the last 8 years with social engineering. It's really not about social. People are able to come up due to the economy. If they make money, they can achieve success. They are able to buy things. They're able to purchase a vehicle to get themselves transportations to get to a job. So we're seeing this as Trump hopefully can be able to turn around the economy enough to where we create more jobs, we create more opportunities for people to get back to work, to get off welfare rolls. The long story short of it, I think the Great Society set up by Johnson was a failure. I think it's a 50-year failure, just like our policy to Cuba is a 50-year failure. So, you can look at it both ways. You have to be able to enable people to help themselves. And that's what Chris and I do in a lot of ways. When we hire somebody, for example, I'm hiring at $13 an hour right now. Okay? $13 an hour times 40 is $520 a week. In today's world, that's not a lot of money, but that's a start.
It's pretty exciting.
That's a pretty good start.
Well, how do you feel about Trump? Like, talk about, do you think he is embodying what you hoped he would for this country in that way?
I think he has evolved somewhat, yes.
From what? From nothing?
But my point being is that you look at how many women's organizations has he brought in to talk with? He's brought in women's organizations from healthcare. He's brought in women's organizations from small business. He's brought in all kinds of different people, and he talks and listens to them. So,
well, we'll see, won't we?
We'll see. And you're right, Megan, and that's my point. Is that we will see in the long term. Nothing happens. History on our presidents is never judged on their short term. It's judged on their long term.
That's true. I agree with that.
So,
I was just telling someone
we have to see. So don't close your mind to the fact that you might be able to do something. And that's a very difficult thing, because if you don't like the individual,
we don't close our mind.
You naturally think that they can't do something. But in the long term, they may do very well.
There's just plenty of things that are already happening that give me great pause. And I also feel very strongly about LGBTQIA issues, and I'm very concerned about rights and health care for people of all bodies and all persuasions, and I'm really worried about stuff like that.
He went right back to health care, though, after it failed the first time, didn't he? He's still continuing to go, health care is something that's important. We need to get something done on it.
Obamacare was a failure. It's just that there's not a better solution as of now. But it was a failure.
I mean, I'm not really, there's plenty of, things to talk about
yeah, that's a different discussion.
Exactly.
But she specifically...
But also social services and things that also help people give opportunities to even be able to go to work and to have a life.
For example, I ran for president during this last term of the first year of the podcast. As Rio well knows, I call myself a social conservative, which is a lot different than a conservative social. Think about that. Because you have to have a certain amount of social programs. But you also have to have a certain amount of capitalism, and that's what makes our country work. So you have the ability to raise people up, and that's what it's about when I hire these young individuals. Can I raise this person up to make them something of themselves, to make them proud of what they do every day, to give them self-independence, to give them the ability to bring their families along with them?
I think just to close,
these are important things in life.
I agree with you, and I think that to close this, or at least to sort of bring it back around to what we originally brought to the table, was just that I guess what I sort of can't get past a little bit is some of the things that befell you, that put you into being homeless in the first place, were somewhat of choices you had and like of things that you had options in that like I'm just curious what it would have been like for you if those things had happened to you not because of any choices you made or like choices you were given as the person you were
But
born
if you
as.
had a
Like,
mentor, how much difference would that make in your life?
If you had a mentor.
A mentor can make a lot of difference.
I just
in
mean
your
there
life.
are forces that possibly might have been completely beyond your experience as a white man that might have been like not because you messed
absolutely.
up on your own
Absolutely.
that you might have never been able to pull yourself
I
out
have
of in
no
the first
idea where it is
place,
to grow up
which
where
makes
Mario
some of this
grew up.
irrelevant.
I have no idea of that.
I think I think perfect example was we were talking about going down to Gulf Shores, and I was saying that
We've had
I was saying I personally have no problem going to Gulf Shores. I don't want to drive there because I don't want to drive through the South, especially driving through the South as an interracial couple, because that's.
I also don't want to drive through the South.
It hurts my heart that you think that way.
Yeah,
But the thing is, Dave,
But I don't disagree with your thought.
But
Yeah.
you did until we explained why.
Yeah,
No,
but
I will
say
disagree
that I will
with
say
you.
the good thing for I think the beautiful thing about this
love
circle
a
of
vacation
friends.
through a lot of
Yeah, I think the
locations in the South.
Yeah, I think the
there's
beautiful thing-
some beautiful places going to the South.
Yeah.
Do I want to do that with Carolyn?
Yeah, well, I guess that's the question.
Absolutely not.
And so I think the beautiful thing about this group and about the format of this podcast is we're able to talk about difficult subjects, ask each other difficult questions, and you can watch people evolve slowly over time. In the course of a year, some of the discussions we've had on and offline, we've been able to see, people go, oh, I never thought about it that way.
Offline has been even more interesting than online sometimes.
I would like to add something about this.
Yeah. So, and you have not asked your question, so you get.
I don't have a question. I just
But you will get our last statement though.
Okay, so this is my last statement. I have been a person from the South, which I guess North Carolina doesn't always count as that, but it is kind of.
No, it's the South.
North of the South, kind of.
Yeah.
It was a
And
Confederate state, so.
Right. So most of my father's family has been living there and has never left, like their entire lives, including his father and his father's father and Lala. And they sometimes are very refreshing because they will say the most stereotypical racist things, but they tell you exactly where it came from and why. And if you challenge them, they are totally willing to go there with you. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, okay. But it's not always, and they often forget. And they will also tell you, like, well, that person will never agree with you. And so there are definitely two parts of the South. There are people who are great because they're so willing to talk about things that the PC world never wants to talk about.
Right.
The politically correct world, which I think is a huge problem, and it prevents you from having conversations. It's like the word Voldemort, like never saying Voldemort, right? It makes that problem
stifling
worse.
of
Or gives power to something.
The stifling of getting to the root of the idea.
Right. So I often feel like I have to say that when we talk about the South because we all are, as Northerners, like very negative about the South, even though we're basically on the Bible Belt between the two right here. Because not everybody from the South is horrible, stereotypical, redneck racist.
So, with all that said, I'm going to end this podcast in the way that I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me, and that is to good times with good people. Yay!